And welcome back. Time for Opinion Court. Thank you for staying with us. You could get in touch with us on 22422, which is our SMS line. And if you are online, please use the hashtag Opinion Court. That's one word so that we can track your feedback. I'll start by introducing my guests to you. To my immediate right is Haman Manyora. He's a political analyst. Haman, you've been missing from the show for a while.
Well, no, that's why I'm here now.
Okay.
And I'm not leaving
And
anymore.
you're not leaving.
Yes.
Wonderful. Welcome to the program. Next to him is Edward Kisiangani, who is our resident political analyst. And to my left is Patrick Gavara, writer, cartoonist, and critic extraordinaire. You're all welcome to the show. So let's kick it off with our first story tonight. And as you heard in our main newscast, Titus Ngamau Musila alias Katitu, a popular ex-policeman charged with murder in Githurai, has been sentenced to 15 years in jail, and there has been absolutely mixed reaction on this decision by the courts. Listen to what the judge had to say.
I have come to a conclusion that a sentences passed ought to be a stern warning and act as a deterrent to the convict and his fellow officers against unlawful use or misuse of firearm on unarmed civilians, and must reflect the society's condemnation of the same. Having taken stock of the social and personal facts of the offense and keeping in view the rights of the victim of the crime, the society's attitude towards the crime, and the rights and interests of the convict, the fact that the victim was unarmed, was shot 3 times, I have come to the conclusion and find that a sentences of 15 years to be served as herein will be adequate, appropriate, and just.
Now remember, hundreds of people lined the streets in Githurai at the time that he was initially arrested, protesting against that arrest, claiming that they felt safe with him. Today we saw a little more mixed reactions from area residents, but we are asking you this question online, and if we could just put it up for you, our poll question, and we hope that you are, of course, voting. Is the Githurai cop hero or villain to you? So let us know, and we'll be sampling the poll results at the end of this live newscast. Well, let me start by saying, gentlemen, it's not every day in Kenya where you see, ordinary citizens going to the streets protesting in favor of a police officer, but they did for this one. What do you think about this case, Haman?
You said mixed reaction, true, but more than that, there are sensitivities here. Whatever you want to say, if you want to say something positive about the cop, there is a family that lost somebody, and a couple of others I think he had killed earlier. If you again want to speak in favor of that other family, you look at this policeman, he's put his life on the line like many other policemen, and here he is paying for it. He's been in jail for quite a while now, and now he's going in for 15 years. It is difficult to really talk about this thing without hurting sensitivities. You see, but I'd rather talk about what is at the core of the problem. You see, we have a police force that is poorly trained, demoralized, overworked, and underpaid, and they work under very horrible conditions. On the other side, we also have crime that cannot be sorted out by the police most of the times, because you see there is a lot of frustration on the part of the policemen. If and today you are top cop, a nice cop, some sergeant or some senior inspector somewhere, and you are doing your job diligently, so the Gadara he has misbehaved and you have arrested him, you'll get a phone call. It will not even come to you. You just find him out. So all these things are in a mixed bag of things, so that those policemen who may really want to do their job are frustrated, and sometimes also because of the police that is poorly trained and poorly equipped, even sorting out crime in the way it should, so that they end up sometimes out of this frustration and then just killing people in cold blood. Sometimes you arrest people, you take them to the cells, you are a policeman, before you reach home, they are already out because of what I've said before. And then again, our judiciary, the people you arrest, They go, they come back, and that's why then the people of Githurai were celebrating this cop. Because there are many instances where rapists, murderers are arrested, and after a week or two they are back in the estate and people are frustrated. So when they get a cop like this who delivers instant justice, they celebrate him.
Gadar, to what extent does this case tell us how, if at all, broken our justice system is and our relationship with that word justice? Is it instant, as he has said, that we do not have the patience to wait for due process?
Well, I think first we have to be careful when we use words like justice. Because just because the police say they killed a thug doesn't mean that the person was a thug. And second, it doesn't mean that he deserved to die. And I think that we should disabuse people of the idea that if police go around killing people, they're actually doing their job. That is not their work. It's not up to them to decide on the guilt of the people they encounter. That's why we have the courts. And I hear lots of complaints from people about the provisions we have in the Constitution that, for example, provide for bail. And lots of guys get frustrated by it, but these are actual protections for citizens. The day you are arrested, or you're suspected of something, you don't want a policeman turning up at your door
and just shooting
you.
Right.
And if indeed you're charged in court, you want the option to say, look, I'm innocent, I should be able to walk around the streets as my case goes on. This idea we need to lock up people, simply they've not been convicted of anything, they've just been suspected, they're just charged with something, is not true.
But what does it tell us about that relationship with justice, to the extent that for some, and as we've seen even with mob justice, they believe it should be delivered here and now, no time to wait to go through courts and all that?
I think it's a symptom of a broken system. It is true, as many say, that our police do not actually do their work. They don't investigate most crimes. In fact, most people stop reporting crimes because really nothing happens. They don't go, and if you look at the cases that they actually take to court, the reason they keep losing many of them is because they're poorly investigated. They don't safeguard evidence. There's always loopholes within them. So rather than go and give them sort of a license to kill, we should really be fixing the system itself. And I would add that system is deliberately broken. It is broken because if we were serious about justice, the first people we'd be seeing on the docks are really the people who control the police. It would be your politicians, it would be your senior people in government, etc. They don't want that. So that's why they keep the system as it is. We've had a discussion for a very long time in this country about reforming the police. And all we hear about is, no, let's just equip them. But equip them to do what? And this is a question we don't really tackle as a society. We've got a police force that, if you look at the Ramsey report, essentially described them as a citizen containment unit. That's what they've been from when they were founded in colonial times, and that's what they continue to be till today. And until we actually come to grips to that, we ask ourselves, why do we need a police force? To do what? Why do we give them weapons? And under what circumstances should these weapons be discharged? And what happens when somebody actually goes outside of that convention? What do we do? And we start educating our people that, look, a guy with a gun, can be a good guy, can be a bad guy. It's only the rules that how they that protect you from him. And the moment you say, oh, let's get rid of the rules and allow him leeway, then you are not protected.
Okay, fair point.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. And I think what we are watching today, the country was treated to a good play, a drama that was casting two institutions, namely the police and the judicial system, two institutions that require treatment, and they require to be admitted to a clinic, a psychological clinic. The judiciary requires to go to the psychological clinic because they suffer from what you call psychological misplaced aggression.
Misplaced aggression?
Yes, misplaced aggression in psychology means that you hit the wrong targets very hard, who are not even the main problem, but you leave out. That is the anger you have for not being able to punish the really criminals in this country. So when they get a chance to punish somebody, they overdo it. When it's thousands of billions of shillings are being stolen by people in this country, rich people who cannot be touched, who cannot obey the court orders. They can do all sorts of things and walk away with it.
You think the time he got is too severe?
Yes, you know, that's the point. It's too severe because we have seen offenses. People commit offenses in high offices and they walk out with what you can call as a misdemeanor, and sometimes it's just a punishment. Now, so that's the first part. The police, the judiciary requires attention by a psychologist, but also the police. By the mere fact that the police officer, Ngamau, was able to kill people is also a reflection that the police force is sick, because it's sick, and the sickness emanates from what my brother Manyora is saying, that they have stayed under very difficult conditions. Nobody cares about how they live. They earn very little money, but they are so frustrated also that even if they found a criminal and then said, this is a criminal and we would like him to be punished, depending on the political connections of such a criminal, the punishment will not be meted out. So in the end, in performing their duties, some of them have resorted to these illegal activities of neutralizing criminals, but they are doing the neutralization because they believe that is the easiest way to met out. This is a very popular thing with members of the public, because every time they are terrorized at night, they think that immediate action should be taken. So moving away from what happened in court, because these are two institutions that are sick and they met over each other. What we really need to do is now to say, what do we do in this country? We must reform the police. We must now say what ails the police, but also say what ails the judiciary. Time has come on in this country when a fresh look at our institutions is done. Politicians, we are watching them weakening institution every other day. Nobody's making it, everybody's making it look like a joke. But this is the result of long years of failure to attend to the project of strengthening these institutions. Judicial officers are intimidated by the politicians. They release their anger on citizens. Then police are also intimidated because they stay badly, they live badly, they also end up taking a shortcut to justice. This is something that we should be looking at in a broader perspective to say, how do we reform this institution? Perhaps this case should help us to get to the business of reforming the two institutions.
Gather a quick rejoinder, but I must point out, Prof, you've been through police reform, so when you talk about police reforms, what is the new reforming that needs to happen? Judicial as well?
Yes.
It's not like we haven't dealt with these institutions before.
Well, we haven't.
We haven't had.
You have not had police reforms?
No.
You don't think what has been happening, including with
circus.
You think it was a circus?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I mean, what they've done, in essence, is substitute welfare for reform. What Uhuru tries to do is to say, if we pay the police better, if we give them better housing, that equals reform.
And that's what Manyora has argued.
Yeah, but that is not reform.
Why we have such a
that
force.
is not reform. What we really need to reform is the ethos of the institution itself. And that ethos springs from the state. And the corruption of the police happens because they are agents of a state that was set up essentially to oppress and to steal. That's what the colonialists set up. And we simply inherited that and we failed to reform it. They set up the police. Why do you think we barrack police till today? Policemen are taken and removed from society, and dealt with, so that they are alienated from this society they're supposed to police. They're not there to protect citizens, they're there to protect the state from the citizens. Whenever you had this term when I was a kid,
harsh.
actually no, it's the truth.
I think I agree. I agree with you.
A lot of times, I mean, when I was a kid, you'd always hear this word, this phrase, "Raia ni adui," And that is what was drummed into them. That was the ethos of the institution that we call the police, that they see their jobs not as protecting me, as protecting the ordinary mwananchi. Their job is to protect the big guy, is to protect the state from you. You know, and that's why all the time, so these conflicts that we keep having is because we are imposing hopes, you know, and dreams in institutions that are not actually set up to deliver on these things. And
so the reform that you speak of now is beyond the welfare. It's about the ethics.
It's about looking
training
at the institution itself, how it functions, what are the incentives within it. You know, we've got to ask, when we had the police vetting for the traffic police, and people were turning up and transacting millions on M-Pesa, you know, why didn't we ask, where are they sending this money to? Where is it going? It's all an extortion operation, and it is allowed and engineered from the top. This money keeps going up. You know, it's all about taking it from you. So these aren't institutions that are good ones that have been somehow corrupted. They are at the core rotten. From when they were founded, they were rotten. They were never founded to protect the citizenry. And until we now go back and start saying, how do we restart all of this? How do we reshape it? You know, everything else we'll be doing is window dressing. One final thing that I really need to counter. Prof says that the policeman was given an excessive sentence. He killed somebody. We must not forget this. And that person is presumed to be innocent. You know,
he was not proven guilty.
He is not being charged with a crime. The policeman has just decided upon himself to go out and kill him. You know, there is no way you can say a 15-year sentence is somehow light. It's not.
Where do you put it? Where do you put the hundreds of people who went to the streets, confirming that Ngamau had killed those who had killed their relatives?
Well, here's the thing.
That voice does not matter.
Here's the thing. When people stand up, and this is where your protections come in when it comes to law. We can sit over here and we all stand up and we say, Prof is a bad guy. Where does Prof get a voice? That's where the law stands. It says that we have to listen to Prof. We can't just pick up our stones and throw them at him, even though we may suspect or we may have good reason to think. Because the moment you do that, you put everybody in danger. If you can't respect the rights of one person, then you're taking those same rights away from everybody else. You know, and it's really, really important that we recognize that these protections exist to protect us. And the moment we say that we can do away with them, I mean, in Kenya, policemen kill more people. They shoot more people than thugs do.
Yes, but
they're the number one killer with guns of citizens.
Okay, Gather, let's have some.
Yes, it is true. It is true. You are right to talk for those who have been killed. I'm not advocating for anybody to kill another one. It is unlawful. It's against the laws of humanity. But what I'm saying is this: how does a policeman reach a point where he does what is? You remember, I started with the clinic. This guy, how many other people did he want subjected to the law, and they were acquitted immediately? Because the money you are saying goes up, the fellow bought justice. If you go across our country and start asking, a guy comes, steals your things, terrorizes you, you know him, and then tomorrow you take him to the police station, tomorrow morning the fellow walks on the streets and say, I will do it again, or to you. So that's a reflection of a bigger problem. We are focusing on Ngamau. He might have made a mistake, but it is a result of frustrations that have completely killed his spirit. There are a few policemen who would like to do good job, but there is no space for doing a good job in the force. It is no longer, it's not a service. So that's the one we should be dealing with.
Fair enough, gentlemen. Interestingly, what has come out of this leads us into our next subject, and Manyora, in fact, and Prof, I think both of you have argued that the judiciary too has its challenges. This week, the Internal Security Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Prof is already smiling before I finish my sentence, said a few things that left us going like, okay. So first, he said that Miguna Miguna was not deported. The man was never allowed into the country to begin with, all right? Second, that there are some evil judicial officers at work in an unholy alliance that is meant to embarrass the state. And third, Prof, you can go on as much as you want about contempt of court, but to date, to this day, he has not been served with court papers. The Internal Security Minister has not been served, according to him, with court papers on the matter.
And allow me to say something.
I think Manyora, you should put right.
These suckers of Miguna has to be brought to an end. You know, people are laughing at us. And we are confirming what the world has always said, that Africans are stupid people. This Miguna thing is a simple thing, but it's embarrassing us as Kenyans and as Africans. The sooner we end it, the better. The less said about this, the better, because there is nothing to say. Miguna is as Kenyan as and as Gadara, as Manyora, as my friend here.
No, but they don't have another passport.
So those are papers people have, you know, and people you don't even understand what a passport is vis-a-vis citizenship. What citizenship is vis-a-vis being who you are as a person. Those are things we can talk about and debate and go into academics. But the truth is Miguna is a Kenyan. All that we are trying to do is portraying us as really stupid people. My friend Matiang'i has a small problem, and many people have it. When people get power, it gets into your head. You think you are bigger than you really is. I've been arguing like this. I was saying this on my YouTube video. Even if you are big as a minister in Kenya, a poor third world country where people die from diarrhea. So what big is this? A country whose GDP can go into that of the state of California about, is it 5 times? Really, this is a small, poor country. So your bigness is
clearly unajivunia, but go.
So what I'm saying, Anne, let's say this.
Go Patriots.
So we are very patriotic, Anne, but that, to be patriotic does not mean to be stupid. There was a man in court talking on behalf of the minister.
Mutinda.
Surely, what are we talking about? If there's a lawyer in court,
Mutinda,
prosecuting on my behalf, I'm his client, and I've signed court papers. You cannot go to court unless you have instructions to go to court. Now, let me stop here because I'm getting annoyed. And
I can see
if the 3 men, and I'm happy there's no woman there, if the 3 men in charge of security in this country can go public and tell Kenyans they don't know what was going on at the airport, then God take care of us, surely. Men in charge of security, Matiang'i, but they didn't know what was going on in this country about Miguna when all world media was covering us.
I don't think they said they didn't know what was going on. I think they said that at that point he was not...
Listen about service. People tried to serve Moi, a petition against him, Matiba, and they failed. Later on in the years, we have come as a country in our judicial system, we have said, service need not be personal.
you can display it.
And a man in charge of security cannot tell Kenyans that what is going on at the airport I don't know. I don't know about Miguna. I don't know there was something in court. I was required to be in court. What are you talking about?
You are
making it even worse than it should be.
Haman, you know the problem is this. First of all, I was shocked by the way Parliament behaved. I've supported Honorable CS on a number of things, including his work in education. So I really have some positive side to him. But then when I saw him performing in front of a parliamentary select committee on education, on security, I was shocked that Parliament had the patience to listen to him. If I was the chairman of that committee, I would have chased him out of the committee, because he didn't even treat them with respect. He started lecturing them on how judicial officers are doing things that are wrong. Now I remembered Article 250 and Article 159 of the Constitution, which starts defining judicial responsibilities. And how you can navigate through if you are not satisfied. He has made a decision that there are 5 officers who are working as cartels. As a government officer, he cannot do that. They have even a forum through which they can channel that, and the judicial officers that they have evidence against can be punished. But here is Parliament, which for some reason, kept on listening to some information coming out of a senior cabinet minister, but which I think they should not have listened to. Entertaining Honorable Matiang'i with that kind of information really abused the voters, because as voters, we expect Parliament to listen to serious stuff. But look at what they
Their
did.
questions were less than...
Yes, you know, they just watched him as he tried to started attacking. Then he says they are putting in measures to deal with those officers who have identified with some faction, some political faction, without evidence. First of all, if we talk about what he said and the team that visited, you know, you remember this. They forget about the service part, but think about the fact that before Miguna Miguna, how did Miguna Miguna end up in Canada? He ended up in Canada against a court order. So, you know, Anne,
original
yes, I'm an educated fellow. I teach students. How many teaches students? You meet very many kids
but currently you're not prof.
Yes, who look at you. Who look at you, and even you. There are kids in this country who look at you as a role model. Why was the first court order not obeyed?
Right.
And it's a series of court orders, to be quite honest.
Yes.
That happened.
So do you want me to be recruited on the bandwagon to just excuse?
On this issue, I think we also need to kind of distinguish and not mix up on the issues we have. There is a genuine complaint against Miguna, you know, which goes back to our old constitution, and Article 97 specifically of that old constitution that said if you took up the citizenship for another country, you then lost Kenyan citizenship. Now, the courts have ruled differently on this. There are at least two cases that I've seen the judgments where one judge, I think it was Kimaru, who said that you had to make a positive renunciation of your citizenship in order to lose it. And Lenaola also ruled on a different case that actually you lost it automatically. So there is an actual dispute that we shouldn't lose sight of. But that in no way excuses the way government has behaved. You know, as these two have very well articulated, there were court orders that were given. Miguna is presumed to be a citizen until his case is complete. Right. You know, and government cannot deprive you of a document and then say you are undocumented. You know, which is essentially what has happened. Is they've taken his passport, they have mutilated it, and then they say he's undocumented.
But I also want to...
Guys, we have to move on.
I just want to correct something small.
Briefly.
You know what? Whichever the court ruling, under Article 2 of the Constitution, Patrick, all laws, customary or otherwise, so long as they go against the Constitution, they are unconstitutional. Whether it's Naula or any other judge, the guiding principle is Article 16 of the Constitution of Kenya, which says that nobody loses citizenship because of what? As long as you are born in a country, you cannot lose that.
No, it doesn't actually say that.
Allow us, Governor, hold on. I will allow us not to get into that debate. I don't want to, because one, it will never end, and two, no one here is a lawyer. That
you don't have to be a lawyer to read the Constitution.
No, but now that it's even before the courts, how about we wait and see how they will interpret that? But Manyora, to what extent do you believe this whole Miguna saga has impacted the handshake?
You know, there are many people who got very annoyed. First, that Miguna was treated the way he was treated after the handshake. But more seriously, that Raila Odinga would go to the airport and receive the kind of treatment he received. And that people saw him making a call, and I think everybody assumed, whether it was true or not, that he was calling Uhuru, and he was snapped. And that really... And it's not just ordinary people. If you listen to people like Orengo, then that tells you there are people who are beginning to question this whole issue of the handshake. Really, what is in this handshake? They had assumed, perhaps Raila was assuming some kind of standing within this country, and that something as small as the Miguna issue would really be dealt with without even Raila participating in the whole thing. But that he went there and nothing still happened. But you see, there's a lot we don't know about this handshake. So I think like you say, how about we wait? How
It
about
might
we
just have been a handshake.
But you see, something has come to my head. I must say this, because when we talk about big people, we must tell them that we love them and we respect them. We have not lost respect for them, and we also advise them. So you must give me half a second to advise Matiang'i to do one thing.
Okay.
To purge the contempt, contempt. After that, move to the appeal court to have this conviction and sentence overturned, whatever lawyers say. Because so long as that conviction stands, and that conviction will stand if it doesn't purge that contempt. So long as Miguna is not in this country, they have not given him his passport, no sensible court can listen to them favorably during the appeal. And if that appeal doesn't succeed, any Kenyan going to court to demand that by dint of that conviction, and a lot of other things they did about this Miguna thing, as well put by Justice Odunga, they are not fit to hold public office. That will come to pass.
Right.
So I'm advising him to purge the contempt, work through the Canadian High Commission and Kenyan High Commission in Canada, give Miguna his document, let him come to this country, let him then move to the Court of Appeal, have this conviction.
Fine. Prof, I don't want us to move any further back, but I would love you to
The
respond to
handshake.
this, because, yes, the handshake, and take a look at this, and I believe we have image for you of a statement by Amos Wako, of course, Busia Center close ally of Raila Odinga, pretty much saying that almost a month after the handshake, people don't really know what the point of it was, because no, quote, shared objectives have been embarked on. He also took a stab at those engaging in what he calls premature 2022 politics. But the kicker is really in his final statement, where he says, quote, I suggest that where constitutional and legal provisions will require to be enacted, the target should be that these provisions be enacted by mid-2020 or before election fever takes over. And why that jumps out to me is because if this handshake was more than a high five, you know, then wait a minute, what are those shared objectives that we mightn't know about that would require constitutional and legal objectives?
Well, first, they haven't articulated what the the meat of what the agreement was. I mean, they said they would set up this secretariat and staff. They would give us a program, whatever. We haven't seen it. And to be quite honest, for me, I was always quite skeptical that this handshake was anything more than an agreement between those two, between an elite agreement of the sort that we have always seen happening at Harambee House, you know, whether it was 2008, you know, and stuff. So that they cut deals that are good for them, but not necessarily good for us. And I think in the expectation that we would benefit from something that they decided, I think we are a bit flawed, and we are being ahistorical. We really need to learn from our history. The solution to our problem is not going to come from them. In fact, they are very much the cause of it. You know, to come from us, we need a much wider discussion, a much wider body that talks about it, a much more inclusive one that discusses it.
But even if we were to agree with the hypothesis that this is elite brokering at its finest, I still wonder, what is it that could be brokered that would require constitutional and possibly legal requirements? And also the issue of early 2022 politicking jumping out in that statement. Could it be everything to do with Ruto?
It is the core of this, yes.
Could he be a shared objective?
Yes,
Could,
yes.
And
Well,
in what sense?
Again, and I've got to say this, for me, it's quite sad how we focus on the tribulations and destinies of politicians as if those are our problems. Ruto's problems are Ruto's problems. They are not Kenya's problems. You know, the same thing with Raila, the same thing with Uhuru. And in a very real sense, we are being distracted from our problems by being given this show called politics that we all invest in. So right now, our talk is really about, Were they gunning after Ruto? You know, what's going to happen? It's that show, that drama, that circus that's capturing our attention. And we're not really talking about the substance of our problems, which is what should actually be addressed.
And that's why I asked what
and one final thing,
objectives
just quite quickly, one final thing. I find it quite curious that it is Amos Wako who writes this, because anybody with any reading of Kenyan history knows who Amos Wako is, and knows the things Amos Wako did as AG, knows that he tried to foist on us a constitution we did not want.
And now?
And now he's here talking about constitutional reform, changes.
I feel like you're arguing my point. What could these shared objectives be?
Yeah, so I would
I will tell you what it
And
is.
let me help you, interject. You know what? From the beginning, we discussed a similar thing on this show, a bit related. I told my colleagues that the handshake talked about things which will not be implemented. And I said, Anne, it is a lie. This handshake about these things about devolution and that, they are not there. And you can watch this space. It is a lie. But this lie favors one political wing. Remember, in political combat, you start negotiating when you are in a position of strength. President Uhuru Kenyatta now is in a position of strength. One of the things he achieves from this handshake, in fact, the loser is Raila Odinga. One of the things the president achieves is this: isolate Raila Odinga out of the NASA. Get the first firing, the shots will be fired from his own team. Wetangula, Kalonzo, and the company. Then, but isolate him completely. Then, after he has been shot, the first bullets coming from his own troops, finish him.
Sure.
I don't know.
And I think
Finish him. And when he does that, you can promise 2022 constitutional reforms. The president has, I think when he started, he was not this complicated. He has acquired some skills, political skills. He's now a fox of sorts because he really now knows how to do certain things. So Raila rushed into a trap. And the trap has worked because it has already isolated his old friends. So you can keep arguing that Raila is a tough guy. How tough are you when your own troops are saying you are not reliable? And then on the other hand, the people you are running to are telling you, don't go slow. Like Duale, the majority leader, was saying today, you go slow. Don't push people too hard. You can wait for 2022, wait for what was promised to you. After all, it's on paper, but there are no promises that can be implemented. Manyora will be very annoyed with me because he doesn't like this kind of thing. He likes us saying that ODM is king.
I'll give me just a minute.
We have 1 minute.
1 minute, it will be well used, well spent.
My brother.
I agree with Edward here that this thing is not about devolution, it's not about corruption and those sort of things, but it's about something. I disagree with him that Uhuru has Raila in some corner for two reasons. One, if there's a fox and a fox, you cannot convince me that Uhuru can very easily outfox Raila. Raila is not this small. He's not. Listen, I'm finishing. He's not some of these politicians you can play around with the way that these others are played with. He's a smart politician. I agree. Uhuru is also smart. I also disagree with him because it is not true that Uhuru is entirely in a strong position. Uhuru needed this thing as Raila needed it. Uhuru was president in this country, all but in name. To what extent are you in a country and you are the president of that country with the kind of division we had? How much of a president are you when more than 50 or 50% of the population doesn't recognize you? How much of the presidents are you really enjoying with the economy doing the way it is doing? So he also needed this handshake. And Raila was also in a fix that after the swearing, so what? And the two gentlemen mutually realized that they were in a fix. Now, what is it they were talking about other than corruption? They have said the two of them can fix our problem. They know it. Let me tell you, the problem in this country, and I will say it elsewhere, is about betrayal. If you want to sort out Kenya's problem, you must sort out the problem of betrayal.
Politics is betrayal. What are you talking
Listen,
about?
listen.
No.
Let me just finish because I'm just actually finished. The only way you can end this problem, if you can sort out the betrayal, pay the debts, and that will be done in 2022.
Which debt?
Which debt?
You should. No. Let me tell you, Anne.
We're out of time.
No, we are out of time. But this one can't go. You know, Anne. Our brother here should go to church. Or go to the mosque and keep on giving that someone. Betrayal, the deception is part of the political game. So already Raila has been fixed by Uhuru. And if he does it, we don't have to moralize over it. We expect Raila to have been smart.
But Gadara does make a point, and I would love you to go back to the point where you said their problems are not necessarily ours.
And this is the problem, this is the issue. That Kenya, the way it is set up, and our political system, the way it is set up to deal with the issues of politicians, with the problems of politicians, not the problems of Kenyans. And I totally disagree with you when you say that Kenya's problem is betrayal. That is the politicians' problem. They are the ones who get betrayed. We are constantly being betrayed by all of them. Yes. You know, and the thing is, the deals that they cut, our entire history has shown, the deals they cut amongst themselves only benefit them. If you doubt it, go look at the National Accord and look at the places that matter to Kenyans, which is your Agenda 4 item, and how quickly those were ignored. But the provisions that give them jobs, that give them positions, were the first ones very quickly put in place. You know, and until we understand that and stop focusing on the tribulation of particular politicians as if they are our issues, you know, that we start asking, where are we?
How would you do it?
How would I do it?
There is no deal. There is no deal between Raila and Uhuru. There is no deal.
Well, let's not reopen the deal debate because ours is over already. I think the point has been made that they have the political problems, we have our problems, whether the two.
But to sort out our problems, you need to organize.
It's something else.
And you need politics to organize.
All right.
I don't need the politicians to organize, really.
You let us know. Let's just take a look at the poll question that we were asking you, though, earlier, and hopefully we should have results on that. It was on our lead story tonight about the Githurai cop and whether he is a villain or not. And your result is
He's a hero.
and I suppose that this is that yes, that he is a hero. Can I just confirm that? Yes, that yes, he is a hero. 64% of you believe he is a hero. 36% thinking not. And you know, goes back to my question about, you know, our interpretation of what justice is. Certainly something worth thinking through tonight. Thank you so much for your feedback. I'll be reading it once I go off the air. And of course, to the gentleman with me in studio tonight, have a wonderful evening and a great weekend ahead. I'm Anne Kiguta. Good night and God bless.